And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Flavio, Briatore and Alpine. We did a video about it a few weeks ago, but now Flavio's completely, not entranced, but within the Alpine organisation, let's say. And he said some interesting things. So the case for and against Flavio. Do you guys think that Flavio Briatore, it is a good thing that he's an Alpine? We are not so sure. I don't necessarily think it's terrible. I don't think it's good. But I do think it definitely comes with very strong positives and equally very strong negatives. So let's all start this talking about this damning phone call in SH1T has been revealed. So as we know, Flavio Briatore has returned to Renault, and he's revealed that he returned to the Enstone team following a phone call from Renault CEO Luca Di Maio, who informed Briatore that Alpine were in the SH1T. Now, Briatore was formerly, as you may or may not know, if you're a long-term F1 fan, the team principal under both Renault and Benetton before being forced to leave after the Crashgate scandal, which we'll get into in a bit. The manager also, he is the manager of Fernando Alonso, and he offered Di Maio advice regarding Alpine when he became the Renault CEO all the way back in 2020. Seems a long time ago, doesn't it? But fast forward to 2024, and Di Maio called Briatore back once again, essentially for help. Now, Briatore offered Di Maio advice on how to be successful in Formula 1. Luca Di Maio, the chairman of Renault, I know he said Luca for much before he's arriving in Renault. And he said when he arrived, I gave him some suggestions. He said Formula 1 is a very difficult business. Yes, Flavio, you're absolutely correct. He said the people you have are not so good. He didn't listen, zero. So after 3 years, he called me. We meet. We are completely in the SH1T with the team. And I tell Luca, Formula 1 is a different business. Formula 1, you need to have somebody dedicated to the team, not be a corporate and be bureaucratic with the team spirit, etc., etc. And it was during this conversation between the Renault CEO and Flavio Briatore that the idea of Flavio returning to Renault evolved. So there's already been significant change though since Flavio's return. Bruno Famin having been replaced, he's been replaced by Oliver Oakes as team principal. Although I think with Bruno Famin in there, I guess many felt it really wasn't a permanent solution. And one day we're talking, he told me, why don't you come back and help me? Briatore says, and that's what he did. He said, I know the team, I know the factory, I know everything. So I tell him, why not? I need to organise myself completely differently because I don't want to go to every race. Okay, I don't want to go to live in England, maybe one day a week, etc. So that's the first issue we've got. He's 74 years old, isn't he? I think he's in mid-70s, I believe. So he is old, but dedicated, I don't know. Is he the man that is going to lead Alpine? That's the big thing. But Briatore intends to remain in his position for the foreseeable future and has made a promise to get Alpine back on the podium by the end of 2027. He said, Alpine, I promise you give me 2 years. In 2 years' time, we see the podium. Briatore said, 2027, we have a podium. I don't think that's going to happen with the current guys. Bear in mind, Alpine are looking at ditching their works engine. The one advantage they can have, potentially, over all the other customer teams is they can design the engine and the chassis in harmony. It doesn't help them being so far away. I get that. But still, it's not particularly good. And another thing with that, I'm concerned with what Flavio Briatore said. In terms of the drivers, he said the new Alpine will emerge in 2025. So as we know, Esteban Ocon is leaving to join Haas. Alpine only has one driver confirmed for next year, his current teammate, Pierre Gasly. But Briatore says the team's priorities are elsewhere at the moment. Okay, let's look at... He said at the moment, you need to put the team together. From the commercial side, the technical side, the management side. The driver makes no difference now. The difference will be 26, 27, 28. This should be the difference for the driver. So... has he then just completely rubbish Pierre Gasly? I understand what he's saying. We need to sort the car out before we get the driver. But which I think is really bad management, is basically saying the drivers, if you have a good car, you need a good driver. He said, if the car's not performing, our point in this moment, make sure we put all the energy on the technical side. Completely understand. But if you focus on that, no. Absolutely not Flavio Briatore. And the reason why, I give you a couple of examples. Haas, Nico Hülkenberg. Williams, Alex Albon. Let's be fair, 2 cars and chassis that are not the best. I think Haas has absolutely made the most of what it can do. But it's the drivers there that are making the difference. It's the drivers like Albon and Hulkenberg that are going to help ultimately finish maybe a place or two higher than we all thought they would, because they are the ones scoring points, especially when you compare Albon to Sargent. Even when you compare Hulkenberg to Kevin Magnussen. And those two are a lot closer, for example, than Albon and Sargent. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, for example, as well, when you look at the points difference. And you can go all the way up with Verstappen and Perez, and that's a car that's arguably the best car on the grid. So I think if Flavio really, really believes that, why? Team boss? No. I get it, they need to sort the car out, but you still need good drivers. Otherwise you're going to go absolutely nowhere. You need that. You need the constructors' points. And at the moment, Alpine is an absolute laughingstock. You could make the argument on the other side that the car is really bad. They do need to sort out. A good car will bring good drivers, yes, but to completely dismiss the drivers, I think it's not particularly very good. And even when Flavio came back, facing his critics, when probed by Craig Slater, I'm going to zoom in here and bear with me and share the screen, because he gave a 2-word salute, so to speak, as you can probably see here. Facing his critics, Briatore's response was less than cordial. When probed by Slater from Sky and those opposed on his return, his reply was brief, friendly, and to the point: F off. Okay. And this is the guy, we cannot forget this, in 2008, this is the guy, Flavio Briatore, in 2008, that got banned from Formula 1 supposedly for life. I thought that was a bit harsh, but he was there with the scandal when Nelson Piquet spun on purpose to bring out a safety car at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, which ultimately made Fernando Alonso win the race. Also, side note, the fact that Fernando knew nothing about it, I think, is utter bull, but innocent until proven guilty, I guess. So there we go. Yeah, and then when he got found out in 2009, when Nelson Piquet left the team, that's when Flavio got found wanting. And yeah, so and that was, funny enough, at the Renault team. And now he's back at Enstone, as in the Alpine team. Do you really want that as a press thing? Not many people are talking about it, which I think is a good thing, because it's so long ago. But you had a guy here who I can make an argument that's worse. If you think Schumacher and Senna, and even were controversial, I think that is a lot worse to be involved in that. And also, let's not forget, he was also involved in one of the biggest scandals in 1994, because he was the boss of Benetton. The 94 was obviously, as we know here, marred by absolute tragedy. But the images of Benetton mechanics once again being engulfed in flames during a routine pit stop at Hockenheim are some of the most iconic, and that was a certain Jos Verstappen and 5 mechanics. They suffered burns. But what was the cause of the fire? Well, and here's the thing. Flavio Briatore, you're in charge of the team, and it turned out to be part of one of the accusations of cheating levelled against Benetton in 1994. Following an investigation by the FIA, it was found that the fuel spillage which prompted the fire, was caused by a valve in its refuelling rig failing to close due to the essence of a foreign body. The FIA and the fuel guys, I think Intertechnique, the company that manufactured refuelling equipment, believe the foreign body reached the valve because of a filter. The filter was designed to eliminate the risk of spillage, understandably, and had been deliberately removed according to the company in their findings. It's later transpired that Benetton removed the filter to increase the fuel flow rate by 12.5%. That's giving them a 1 second advantage during their pit stops. But sadly, no further action was taken after it was found Benetton removed the filter without the intention of cheating. But a much bigger accusation was gathering storm in the background. Traction control. That first emerged at the Brazilian Grand Prix, because Ayrton Senna was absolutely convinced that Benetton were doing something. And following that tragic weekend at Imola, the FIA asked Benetton, Ferrari and McLaren to provide copies of their engine management system. Both McLaren and Benetton missed the deadline and were fined $100,000. Analysis made on the black boxes found that a launch control system was in the software after it included a trigger system. The investigation showed that it could be triggered by a PC and that it wasn't known as option 13. For those of you old enough to remember, the team later admitted this existence of this special code, but claimed it could not be activated by Schumacher. The FIA had no proof it was being used, so no further action was taken. The FIA, I mean, all the way back in 1994, the governing body had absolutely no teeth, complete wimps. The best evidence is that Benetton Formula Limited was not using launch control at the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix of the FIA. But the fact that it was there, is, for me, that's almost akin to you go to the Olympics and you take your steroids, and then you're like, well, I wasn't really using them. You know, maybe I was holding back a bit, potentially, but they were still there in my system. What? Ridiculous. Now, in the aftermath, the FIA admitted that they had trouble scrutinising driver aids on the cars, with the decision later being made to permit traction control, and that was all the way in 2001, because they admitted that they couldn't police it very well. So, there we go. But Flavio Briatore, yep, classy guy, he was the boss of the team then. However, you can't ignore 94-95 Drivers' Championship, 95 Constructors' Championship with Benetton, 2005-2006 Renault Constructors' Champion and Constructors' Championships. So he does have some pedigree, but if you look behind the scenes, even the mechanics used to say they gave Flavio a radio and his own channel, which no one really listened to because they supposedly just had enough of him talking. A lot of people have said he doesn't know much about Formula One, which I completely agree, the technical side. However, commercially, I think he is very clever. He's, for example, no, he's not the man that found Michael Schumacher. He stole Michael Schumacher from Jordan, with obviously the help of Schumacher and Willie Webber. That's something that Eddie Jordan to this day is slightly upset about, but fair enough. And yes, he is a driver manager. He's very clever at being ahead of the curve when it comes to deals. In terms of understanding Formula One and turning around a team, the only thing I'll say in Flavio's favour, he alone cannot do it, but I do think he's good at recognising that other people can, recognising talent and putting people in place to do better jobs. But ultimately, he is a controversial figure. I don't think he should be running anywhere near the running of a Formula One team because of the reasons I suggested. But I understand why Alpine want him. Goodness me, they need to do something. But I don't think Flavio is the answer. And I don't think they'll be having any podiums in 2027. That's just me. I want Alpine to do well. I really, really do. More competitive teams means a better, essentially, a better Formula One, a better product for us to watch on TV. If you liked what you see, you want to see a bit more, give us a subscribe. That would be amazing. Click on that notification button if you don't want to miss a video. We also do rally videos, F1 news videos. We talk about the touring car. We've got Formula One this weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend coming as well. So busy. Speak to you soon. Thank you and stay safe.